Good morning, I'm Robert Tan. Join us as we follow the money from the financial choices that shape your daily life to the bigger forces driving the economy. The headlines. The peso opens just a touch shy from yesterday's record low of 61.64. Lights could go out again in parts of Luzon and the Visayas as the red power alert stretches into a third day. And is the middle class becoming the new poor? Personal finance educator Tonichi Bonoan joins us on why a steady paycheck may no longer be enough. The peso opens just a centavo stronger from its weakest level on record. As of this morning, the local currency is trading at 61 pesos and 63 centavos against the US dollar. It hit a record low of 61 pesos and 64 centavos yesterday. The peso slid over the risk of higher U.S. interest rates, while political uncertainty here at home might be making investors more cautious on Philippine assets. Possible power interruptions in Luzon and the Visayas persist for a third straight day. The National Grid Corporation of the Philippines has placed both grids under red alert again. Luzon from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. and the Visayas from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. A red alert means available supply is short of what is needed to cover demand and required reserves. In our corporate stories, GD Capital posts lower net income for the first quarter at 8.91 billion pesos, down by 3% from the previous year. The company attributed the slump to weaker consumer spending, driven by geopolitical and economic uncertainty. On the other hand, Security Bank saw pre-provision operating profits growing by 24%. The company says this is because of stronger core earnings and disciplined cost management. In politics, NBI Director Melvin Matibag claims that the Senate shooting provided an opportunity for Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa to escape. Director Matibag went as far as citing the senator's wife. She supposedly admitted herself that de la Rosa took advantage of the chaos.
Sila ang pumunta papuntang GSIS. Kung gusto mo lang i-secure yung mga senador at yung Senate, bakit kailangan mong tumawid? Pwede namang naglagay ka ng pwersa ron sa mga point of entry. Andyan ang Marines, may PSPG kayo, ang usahan ninyo, hindi po ba? Pero pumasok eh. So, it created an opportunity. For what? I don't know. Meron silang means, may motive sila, created the opportunity. And I'm going to opportunity. Lumabas po sa inyong online news. Mismo yung asawa ni Senator Bato nagsabi na that Senator Bato took advantage of going out of the Senate dahil dun sa putukan.
Attorney Matibag ultimately claimed that the Senate is responsible for the security, welfare, and whereabouts of De La Rosa. Up next, the rat race just got harder to escape with prices going up, but salaries staying the same. We discuss this with personal finance educator Tonichi Bonoan. Keep following the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. For decades, a steady paycheck was the ticket to a good life. But now the peso is above 60 to the dollar. Prices and bills are high. Many professionals are becoming the new poor, too rich for subsidies, but too squeezed to build wealth.
The middle class, the ones who wake up early, pay the most taxes, and keep this economy alive, we are the ones who work for both the poor and the rich. And we get almost nothing in return.
Is the rat race still winnable in this economy? And joining us this morning is personal finance educator Tonichi Bonoan. Good morning, Tonichi, and welcome to Follow the Money.
Morning, Robert. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, welcome to the show. Now, Tonichi, before we start, just to get to know you so that viewers know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you went to social media to talk about personal finance?
Right. So for me, content creation was always something I wanted to do. I was just always too scared to do it because of what people would think. Um, right. So I went into it this year, and I decided to go in full time. I moved to Dumaguete just to start creating content. And the biggest reason why I did was because I wanted to be my own boss and I wanted to talk about things I wanted to talk about. You know, when you're working a job, you know, you always have to listen to what someone else says. You have to do what the company wants. And I wanted to live my own life while also helping people and talk about things I'm passionate about.
Yeah, well, that's
And
true
so
for a lot of
me,
people. Yes, right now they really want to, be their own boss, earn their own money. But Tonichi, so let's get right to it. Right now, at a 60 peso exchange rate, at what point does a professional salary officially lose the war against inflation? Especially now, it's at 7.2%.
Right. So for me, honestly, Robert, the war it's already being lost, and most families don't even know it yet. So over the last 5 years, so inflation has averaged around like 4%, I'd say, and salaries they barely kept up. And as you mentioned, in April, inflation jumped to 7.2%. And I read an article saying the BSP themselves said that inflation will stay above their 4% target for the next 3 years. So that means that for the next 3 years, we're getting poorer. And so $60 to the dollar is an insane amount. And if you're living in Metro Manila, then you have kids to support and parents and meds, and if your combined income is under 100K a month.
Is that why you moved to the province? Is that why you moved to the province? It's getting a bit expensive here.
Partly, but I mean, I moved here because I just didn't want to, get distracted from anything else but creating content and becoming a master at AI. So
That's good.
like
At least you get to focus. Now, Tonichi, you argue, I saw in your social media that renting is often smarter than buying in the current market. Now, what specific data or personal experiences do you have that led you to this mindset, and how does it challenge the traditional Filipino goal of land ownership?
Right. So for me, it really just comes down to two things: opportunity cost and liquidity. So you asked for the numbers, and here's what I know. So right now, I think everyone knows this. There's like an oversupply of condominiums in Metro Manila, right? Vacancy is at around like mid-20s%, if I'm not mistaken. And opportunity cost. So we compare that to just investing. For example, I invest in an ETF, which basically just tracks the S&P 500. This thing has been averaging like 10% a year for decades, dude. So, and if you look at other alternative assets like Bitcoin, even higher. And so, and both of these, in terms of liquidity, I can sell in like a second, like on my phone, like that, right? A condo, how long would it take to sell a condo? A minimum of 6 months, if you're lucky, 2 years, and you have to pay an agent to sell it for you and give them a percentage. And so that's just like a big liquidity trap, man.
Yeah, actually, that's true, because a lot of analysts that I've spoke to, especially during this crisis, say liquidity is key. You got to keep cash, and sometimes if you put it somewhere because of high inflation, you actually lose a lot of money.
Exactly.
Now,
for me, go ahead.
Okay. Now, I just want to talk about a little bit about, you were saying that a lot of even the young generation are wanting to move out of the corporate rat race. Now, can you expound a little bit on what your digital product model for passive income actually is in a local context, and why people are moving towards online digital products? And is this model a scalable solution for the Philippine economy, or just a niche for those who are tech literate?
I got you. So my digital model, I've just decided to digitize myself, essentially. So I've productized myself on the internet, dude. And my brand at Just Launch is like everywhere. And so I talk about things that I like talking about, which is money for Filipinos, inflation, the economy, AI, renting versus owning, stuff like that. And these are things I realized people aren't actually taught of in school, but they feel it in like their wallet every single day. And so to answer the second part of your question, is this scalable for Filipinos? 1 billionaryo percent, dude. Like, AI, for me, changed everything. Like, we could build a website in seconds. You can run entire business from our phone, and the internet doesn't really care if you're from Makati or Mindanao. It just rewards good, consistent content.
You could be actually a digital nomad. I've been hearing that a lot now. If you're becoming a digital, you can be anywhere and earn from anywhere in the world.
Right. 100%. And you know what? You don't have to like be a content creator as well to like be a digital nomad. You can just work remotely. And if you're lucky, you can earn in US dollars. And then live in peso, which is like a cheat sheet that a lot of people are doing nowadays.
Now, Tonichi, with power rates surging, what is the first sacred cow you'd tell a family to cut from their budget immediately?
Sacred cow. I like that one, Robert. For me, I'd say, and that's a bit controversial, I'd say it's like dining out. I know that a lot of people don't really think of this as a luxury. I always hear the word, Jollibee tayo, or McDonald's tayo, or Grab food tayo, diba? Tapos after, they say, deserve naman natin yan, right? And so, if you look at like the average family, I would say, an estimate, I would say they spend maybe like 500 to like 1K maybe every time they eat out. And if they do that like 2-3 times a week, dude, that's 6K a month, man. That's literally like your Meralco bill right there and more.
True, because I was watching one of your posts and you were saying this is what the fake rich looks like. They spend so much, they make it look like they're rich online, but then when you look at their savings or their bank accounts, it's at zero.
Yeah, exactly.
What made you put up that post?
Right. So, I just feel that a lot of people nowadays, and I have a lot of friends who think this, who like act like this. And so I always see them traveling and doing all these things, buying the latest gadgets. But then people that I'm close to, when I talk to them, dude, they're like struggling to pay rent and stuff like that. And so it made me realize, okay, this is like a thing that a lot of people do. And I did my research and I found out that a lot of people wouldn't do this. And so a lot of people are just looking for like acceptance and respect. That's really like the underlying traits behind all this. And, for me, that is a trap that a lot of people have fallen into. And I just wanted to say something so that more people don't fall into it, right? So it's okay to be free, but,
Well, that's true, yeah. So you're not actually joining the bandwagon of the YOLO lifestyle?
Hell no. I mean, I would say my runway is pretty good, but dude, I'm living in Dumaguete. Everything here is so cheap, and I just like focus on like my stuff. One of the reasons why I moved to Dumaguete was because it's just so insanely cheap also. And so, I've had my phone for years, right? I've literally worn the same barong to like the last 15 weddings. It's not, and so, I just try to invest as much as I can. And then every single thing that I save, instead of buying, I just invest. That's it.
Okay, so now when looking at the current performance of the PSEi versus global markets, you were mentioning a while ago about ETFs. Now, how should the average Filipino investor weigh the risks of staying local versus moving assets into dollar-denominated funds? I'm just gonna keep it real, Robert. So I'm not gonna tell anyone to not invest in PSE, right? But I will tell you this: you have to look at the numbers and let's make a judgment for ourselves, right? So the PSE, if I'm not mistaken, hit an all-time high like 9 years ago. It was like 9,000. Right now, it's sitting below 6,000.
Like 6,000, if I'm not mistaken. Dude, that's like down by 30% from the freaking peak, and that was 8 years ago. Meanwhile, if we look at like the S&P 500, it averaged around like 10% returns per year for decades, like 40 years, 30 years. And so I'm not telling people to like abandon PH stocks here. But if 100% of your investments are local, dude, you're not diversified. You're just exposed. And we have to put at least some of our money in like dollar-denominated funds or global ETFs, diversify, because you know what, kahit sabihin mong, support local, at the end of the day, it's still your money, man. So
Is it also one reason why you're putting out posts on personal finance? Is because there's a struggle, a lack of financial education here back home, or a systemic problem where wages simply can't keep up with the cost of living?
it's hard to pick one, man, but I'd say it's both. And that's what makes it even harder. And so if we look at like the education side, right? I believe I read a stat a couple weeks back saying like, according to the World Bank, 1 in 4 Filipino adults are considered financially literate. And so not because, Filipinos are dumb, it's because nobody taught us this, dude. And so which is one of the reasons why I started creating content on this specifically. And I just like it.
So
But,
you just learned by
here's
doing. You actually didn't see it when you were in high school, college. You just learned everything just through experience.
Pretty much, yeah. I've had a lot of losses. I've also had a lot of wins, and I think sharing these experiences to people and just being raw and real, really helps. So yeah, I didn't learn any of this in high school. The only thing I was obsessed with was football back in high school and like going out. So different.
So Tonichi, for someone watching right now who wants to do the same thing as you do to become more independent, for someone stuck in a 9-to-5 job, what is the most prudent first move to transition towards that independence?
All right, let me tell you what I did. And so the first move I did was to build a second income. Right? I always say like, your 9-to-5 keeps you alive, but what do you do after? Right? Your 7 to 11 or whatever time you have that's free. So, this isn't just me talking. Almost half of like working Filipinos that I know hold more than like one job, right? And that's actually, dude, that's not a trend. That's like the new normal. And so this is, I think, where most people get it wrong. And so they think like side hustle means you have to start a business or something complicated. But dude, that's so wrong, man. You can just start with something you already know or something that you're good at. Like if you're good with people, I suggest trying sales. If you're gonna write, freelance, you don't need to learn a new skill. You just need to monetize the one that you're already good at.
But there's that fear, Tonichi, for those who have been settled with a 9-to-5 job. They're scared, the fear of going out there. They always tell themselves the fear of failing. That's why I like your backdrop that you put there. What if it all works out? On the flip side, right? Because a lot of people say, I have that fear. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Right? What did that mindset teach you? Your backdrop. What if it all works out? That's the flip side.
Right. It's just for me, I'm just always been naturally like a risk taker. I'd say I want to live my life for me. And so to live that life that I've always like wanted and yearned for since I was a kid, it requires taking a lot of risk. And so for me, I just have these stuff in the back to just remind me every single morning to just, keep attacking, keep taking more risk. But also, trying to just work as hard as you can to like try to be the best as you can. And, you just, something you have to do. And, life is boring without risk. And so, there's a lot of fun in that.
True, because you often talk about escaping the rat race. But again, what we were discussing, for many in that rat race, it seems that that's their safety net. Now, what would be your one real advice to someone with zero startup capital, high debt, or is, financial freedom becoming a luxury right now instead of being an already stable system that anybody can afford?
Got you. One thing I'd say, and this is gonna sound cliche, Robert, but I'm just gonna say it because I really do believe it's true. So the first thing you have to change isn't your bank account, right? It's your belief, right? If you believe escaping the rat race is impossible, like you'll never take that first step. You know what I mean? And so, I get it, dude. Like because everything is going up, the peso is down, and life feels impossible. But I always like to remind myself that there are people who have done it. It's not easy, but it's also not impossible, right? And so, I guess if I have like no capital or something, the one thing I do is I work for someone for free. it's super controversial. But I tell people to do this, they just don't believe me, man. They think I'm stupid or something. But that's what I did. I cold message people who are like way ahead of me, and I say, I'll give you my nights and weekends, man. I just want to learn, and hopefully one day you can help me out. And if you just keep asking people for this, someone's gonna say yes. And I promise you, someone's gonna say yes to your free labor.
Well,
and then,
actually, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of talk about, it will always be a no until you ask. If you don't ask, it's always a no. But if you ask, it's 50-50. It could be a yes or a no.
Yeah.
So might as well
exactly.
ask, right?
yeah, might as well ask. Like, you have nothing to lose, dude.
Yeah. But, there's always that fear of being rejected. How do you move past that?
Right. So the way I did it, and because I was in sales, and so I just forced myself to cold call people all day, and I'd be shaking on the phone. It's pretty insane, dude. It was hilarious if you actually saw me doing it. But I'd say one thing that really helped me as well to get over it is you just have to go up to people in the street, talk.
True. And finally, Tonichi, most of our viewers are in the sandwich generation, supporting both kids and parents at times. Now, how do you follow the money into savings when your primary debt is a family obligation you refuse to default on?
That honestly, Robert, that's tough, and I'm not going to pretend that I know what that feels like supporting kids and parents at the same time.
That's very hard. Yeah.
Right. I've never lived that specific situation, but here's what I do know. From the data, most Filipinos don't have an emergency, right? Literally, I think most Filipinos only have 50K to their name in terms of an emergency fund, if I'm not mistaken. And one hospitalization can wipe that out, dude. And so, most Pinoys are one emergency away from crisis. Right? So what do I think? I think people should just start painfully small, maybe $500 a month, 200 pesos a week, whatever you can find after everything is paid.
Yes. Because it compounds, it gets compounded in the long run. Yeah.
Exactly. You just finished my sentence. Great minds think alike. But go for it.
Final advice to those watching right now, and where can they find you?
Right. So, final advice I'd say is, this is something that I always think to myself, is you have to be cruel to yourself short term to be kind to yourself long term. Thanks. And people can follow me at JustStaunch. I'm at JustStaunch everywhere. JUSTTONCH. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. You name it. And I hope to see you guys there. Yeah. And thank you again, Robert, for having me.
Thank you very much, Tonichi, for joining us this morning, all the way from Dumaguete. Thank you. A lot of learnings, insights, and advice that people can listen to and maybe work on in the future.
Got it. Thank you too, man. And super nice meeting you. And thank you again for everyone listening. Take care.
Okay. And that's all for today. I'm Robert Tan. Every day will help you make sense of the financial choices and economic forces that shape everyday life. Thank you for watching. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel, and always follow the money.